Welcome to the Cultivating Business Growth podcast, bringing you bi-weekly discussions designed to help you grow your business and create the lifestyle you desire. Elevate your business with proven strategies from virtual CFOs, CPAs, and business advisors. We discuss real-world challenges solved with actionable steps that get you the results you need both in business and building the life you deserve.
Thank you for joining us for episode number 178 of the Cultivating Business Growth podcast. In this episode, we break down practical data protection for small business owners who are growing and becoming more exposed to vendor risk, cloud risk, and compliance demands. Our guest today is Timothy O'Hara, VP of Data Risk at the Hack Ninja, where he helps growing companies uncover hidden data risks and build systems that protect both revenue and reputation. He brings a rare mix of security and business insight, making cybersecurity something owners can actually understand and act on. Tim, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jamie. Welcome, everyone.
I want to start with a premise you've talked about before, the idea that growing small and mid-sized businesses are actually more at risk than Fortune 500 companies. Can you explain why that is?
Sure. They look for them to be, there's a couple of different reasons. A lot of times they're distracted because they're focused on growing. And so because of that, they're not as focused on, the governance layer. They may not have established it yet. And so because they're moving fast, adding vendors, adding new tools, hiring people, and they don't continually assess the risk and the impact of the changes that they're making on the organization. And those are things that create really good opportunities for exploits.
Right. And bigger companies probably have someone in charge of it. So they have someone dedicated to looking at it. While you're a small business owner, you're wearing many hats, you're doing all the things. And, it just becomes, I'll do that later.
Right. Yeah. I always say you're doing it at, 8:00 at night when you're having your glass of wine or whatever. Right.
Yeah. So you want to make sure it's a priority. And it's hard as a small business owner because there's so many moving parts and pieces as you're growing. So let's just start at the top. So why growing businesses are most exposed? What are the biggest misconceptions business owners have about cyber data and risk?
Sure. I would say the first thing is they assume that they're too small to matter. Or the other thing I hear is, my vendors handle this. So in reality, data risk hides inside everyday processes that businesses have. These are electronic forms, apps, marketing tools, cloud connections. So basically, every department in a company or vendor holds keys to sensitive data, and one, simple oversight can undo, a year or two of growth. So cybersecurity risk is synonymous with business risk because it directly impacts your revenue, your reputation, the market confidence in your brand. And so what I like to say, if businesses do nothing, the likelihood of breach is almost, 100% in a 3-year term. Even a small business, breaches costs range $50,000 to $5 million. And so you have to
be small business is out of business, right? I mean, that's
right. Well,
it's having a breach and, a small business owner having a breach, we can't weather that storm.
Right. So one of the things I say, and because Jamie, you're a finance officer, right? Mm-hmm. you have to be measuring that liability and look
Mhm.
at how, for, a business owner. So you have to measure and mitigate that liability.
Yeah, that's an important key to take, and we'll talk about what to do. Can you talk a little bit about why small and mid-sized companies are more attractive targets than larger enterprises?
Like I said, because they're moving so fast, you know, it's they're moving at speed, and the rate of change that's going on, and not only the rate of change they're going on, but technology changes like dog years, right?
Right.
There's like
Yeah.
7 technology.
Mm.
And so if you don't have an independent, once in a while you need to have an independent process to say, hey, when we changed this stuff, did we break stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. I
You
think that's
know,
the biggest challenge is making sure you have processes in place to evaluate. Larger companies have, time, resources to put all the things in place. If you don't have protections, obviously it becomes easier to target and be
right.
successful, which is a problem for small businesses. Can you share a real world example of a growth stage company that has suffered from data risk and what the fallout looked like?
Yeah, sure. Um, a regional healthcare technology firm with about 100 employees was scaling fast and had signed several, major like hospitals and large providers.
Hmm.
And their development team left an exposed database instance on a cloud test server. So basically, they forgot to make it private.
Okay.
You know, I've, well,
Very big problem, I would imagine.
right. Yep. This is HIPAA data, right?
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. And a data broker found it within days. And so they had a large revenue loss. They had to do a breach disclosure. They had, significant legal fees. They lost contract renewals, and the founder who spent, they had to spend 6 months rebuilding the trust instead of growing revenue.
Right. So yeah, it's a complication in many facets of,
Right. And the thing is, to do it right, the fix would have cost them less than $5,000
yeah.
to do a configuration, verification and some staff training,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the thing is a lot of times that's it. People don't see that. Well, I don't want to spend money now upgrading my firewall, or I don't want to, what I mean?
Hmm.
If your stuff is end of life, you pretty much don't have a choice. Like you need to
Right.
do,
Yeah.
you need to do it. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
You need to weigh those benefits and, the costs and benefits, because if you, pay the 5,000, it feels like a big cost and you don't want to spend it, but, what are you saving? Aggravation, hassle, like you said, legal fees, bad reputation, like the downsides are huge. So it's important to verify and making sure you have the right things in place, and the extra money is going to pay off. It's more of an investment.
no, right. And so I'd like to say that, cybersecurity isn't a technical issue. It's an
Mhm.
attention and resource allocation issue.
Yeah.
And what
That's
leaders,
true.
and as a business leader yourself, whatever you ignore grows teeth in a
Yeah.
business, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's why, again, you need an independent advisor to, like that's one of the things that we really say is make sure you have good, not only people to do work, but people to evaluate what you're doing and make sure that you're on the right path.
Yes. That's really important. So let's dive into a little bit about the vendor and third party risk. In your experience, how often is a breach actually caused by a vendor or partner versus an internal failure?
Yeah, 60% of breaches are are result from third parties.
Wow. And what are those like most common blind spots that businesses have around their vendors and tools?
Sure. There's several. And I'd like to say there's, factors that influence this
Hmm.
are not only just, you know, um, so how and where a company does business and where its vendors do business. You know, for example, you know, if the company's only doing business in the United States, or if they and their partners do business with, you know, China or Russia, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
These things all influence it, right? So it's that in not only the industry you're in, the staffing levels and the changes all impact the need to do a risk assessment.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can say is common blind spots that I see is trust without periodic verification after initial vendor selection.
Okay.
Is a big problem.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times when we select a vendor, we kind of, to your point, put the trust in like, well, they have the security, they have the data. So a lot of people use a third party to pay bills, or, a payroll provider, for instance. Mm-hmm. What are the things that we should be looking at or making sure they're doing, or, make sure that they're in compliance and that we're in compliance, essentially?
Yeah, you need to have good contractual language.
Okay.
That says, hey, you have, cybersecurity dialed in, right? Okay. You need to ask for a SOC 2.
SOC 2. Yep. I've heard of those.
And
that's just a documentation from the vendor stating kind of how they handle security, correct?
Yeah. Well, they have to get an independent assessment annually. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And you want
that is.
Yeah. It's basically like an underwriter's laboratory sticker.
Okay. Yeah.
like my
somebody else said they're good to go on the security front, not just they think they're good to go.
Yeah, not only their security but their data processing also.
Okay, good. And data processing.
Yeah, okay. It's so security and data are one and the same.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And so but it's not only on that selection, but at least annually.
Yeah.
Like that's where I'm saying, like they, and a lot of times, even when you're selecting vendors, they select vendors based on functionality and cost, and they don't look at the security risk.
Yep. It always be one of the factors for sure.
Right. Ownership data ownership is another issue in companies. Okay. Yep. Which impacts this.
Right.
There's all these connections, who owns mitigating the risk for the company? It has to be assigned.
Yep.
As an objective. Because like again, otherwise you could and I talked about contracts. You should have a risk checklist in place. You know what I mean? When you're assessing, not only not all vendors are the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like payroll has very high, impact
rules. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's more of the smaller shops, maybe newer technologies that haven't been around as long, maybe skirting some of the things.
No, you could.
And then you run into issues because they're just not as vetted as a bigger company, bigger vendor.
Right. Well, and even the bigger companies, I mean, we still get breach letters from large Fortune 500 companies too, right?
Yep.
I mean, so it's an issue for everyone. So the whole thing is, it's just, where are they at a point in time and where am I? And do I trust giving these people my data and connecting with them? Yeah. I know there's a few others. I don't want to berate this, but backups are another important thing.
Okay.
True resilience is you have an independent, versioned, and tested backup, and not only at the data level, right? Because if you go to try to recover something and it's not, you don't want to find out it's not there when you need it,
Mm-hmm.
and lastly, offboarding discipline is bad. So we let a contractor go, we let an employee go, we change vendors, and we don't terminate their access rights.
Okay. Yep.
Or an employee transfers internally, we give them their new permissions and we don't terminate the old ones.
Yep. That seems like a reasonable oversight that might happen. But yeah, so it's really important. That's one thing we like to do too. We'll check quarterly to let's just go into all our systems, make sure anybody who's left is gone and not in the system. Like we have an exit checklist for each person, but periodically you just want to make sure that it all, got taken care of. So we will, review that to make sure people are out. And at times you're like, why is this person still in here? Why do they still have access? Typically, they no longer have access on our side to their email address, so they don't have easy access, but I'm sure there's ways that, they can work around it and they could get in if they were motivated to.
Yep. Yeah. And tied to this is something that'll be near and dear to your heart is disbursement authorities.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to, especially large dollar amounts, you want to think about, on some dollar amounts, maybe having two signatures, two electronic approvals.
Oh yeah, we like that.
That people's approvals should be consistent with, the 98th percentile of what they normally approve.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I see it sometimes, too far one way, too far the other.
Yeah, that makes sense. So specifically on vendors, if a business owner could ask a vendor just one question today to assess risk, what would you tell them to ask?
I would ask them for a SOC. I guess
the SOC 2.
I would ask for the SOC 2, and I would say, if we're talking about cybersecurity, I would actually say this: when and how frequently do you test your business resiliency to protect my data, not just yours?
Okay. When and how often?
Yeah, when and how.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's good. And get the SOC 2. Those are the two things. We're giving you two things instead.
I know you asked for one, but
thank you. Yeah, the more information I feel like small businesses can understand, the better. So I think that's great. Let's talk a little bit about the zero trust mindset and just kind of explain that. We've heard that thrown around a lot. I'm not sure if everybody fully understands it. So can you explain what that zero trust means in the cybersecurity world to a non-technical CEO?
Mm-hmm. So I always talk about data is currency for a business, right? Mm-hmm. Data is money. So you wouldn't give an employee a corporate credit card with no limits, no monitoring, right?
No, you would not.
Right. And so giving them access to your systems is just the same way, because you're giving them access to data. So you're giving them access to money or a vendor or whatever. So the idea is no person, device, or app should be automatically trusted just because they're on the team. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
And that is simply put, that's what it means. Okay.
And what does adopting a zero trust mindset actually look like in daily business operations?
Yeah, it's more of a culture than anything else. Okay. It's a mindset.
Yep. I think that's important because we talk about that on the from the finance perspective too. We put controls in place so people can't steal, not because I think Jane is going to steal money. I want it to be not possible for Jane to steal money regardless, right? Like we want to create that, to your point, kind of the culture of this is how we do things. We have double checks. We have checks and balances, and it's not because we don't necessarily trust Jane. It's because we don't trust anybody, right? Like to your the zero trust. Like we don't just trust anyone. We make sure that there's a way to catch that, a stopgap to find things like that. So it sounds like it's similar with security as well.
Well, I mean, it's governance, risk, and control. It's the exact same concept. So what I say is the same you should be using the same rigor to manage cybersecurity. You manage to grow your sales and manage your company's finances.
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense. Awesome. If you wanted to start implementing zero trust with one small step, where would you recommend they begin first?
It starts with an assessment.
An assessment.
Because you have to have fact-based priorities about what to do first, second, third.
Okay.
And if you don't know where you are, you can't figure out where you need to go.
Right. Yeah. Maybe you're doing a great job. Who knows? You don't have a lot of risk, or maybe you have a lot of risk, and you need to focus on that.
Oh,
so talking a little bit about, minimum viable protection for $1 million to $20 million business. For owners who don't have internal IT or security leadership, what is enough versus overkill?
Yeah, that's the $10 million question right there.
If we could just hire somebody to handle it, that'd be great.
Yeah,
it's expensive. So it's kind of trying to find that balance.
So it's a business decision. It does require assessment. Like periodically, you need to do it. You certainly overkill starts, I guess maybe let's say, if you start buying technology without strategy, that's probably silly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that could be even, doing, we need to start doing AI. Well, right. Or what's your outcome?
Right. What's more structure on the decision making?
Yep. So, minimum viable protection, it's really about, you can withstand a likely loss or attack, without impacting business, losing clients or reputation. I guess that's a guiding principle. It's not a rule of thumb, but governance is principles based anyway.
Yeah. If a business could only implement 3 protective actions this quarter, what would your top 3 be?
Boy,
one. If that's, maybe we can take one. Small.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on their maturity and their industry, but multi-factor authentication is like business 101. If you don't have that in place, you need to have email. You need to be good email monitoring. Need to have good antivirus. You know what I mean? And if you've bought antivirus more than 5 years ago, you need to rethink it, because a lot of antivirus stuff doesn't address the new threats created by AI. And we have like a free little half-hour thing I can give people access to if they want to learn about that and what a good password manager is, and some things like this. So there's some stuff in there, and we have an education program that's complimentary that I can give people access to. They can learn some more of that stuff.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, if you send us a link, we can include it in our show notes and people can get to that. So that'd be great. So what's a realistic budget or effort level for small businesses who want to materially reduce the risk without huge enterprise spend?
So I'm gonna say it this way. In terms of revenue, 1 to 3% of revenue.
Okay, that can be substantial.
Yep.
Yep.
Or, and then sometimes people look upon it as a percent of IT spend.
Okay. Yep.
You know what I mean? That's another common way, and I've some companies spend as low as 5%, and some companies spend as much as 20.
Okay.
It,
Yeah.
and
Depends on the business, what they're doing,
again,
how important it is.
right. You got it. And that's where I go back. It's a business decision.
Yeah.
Probably the answer requires assessment, and what you're doing today, it because part of the answer is, where is your business strategy? Where are you heading to?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that will all influence, and how much, technology is core to your business offerings.
Yep. That's awesome. Let's talk about data risk as a growth enabler and not just defensive. So how does having strong controls actually accelerate growth, especially for funding, partnerships, or enterprise sales? Have you seen it be a huge benefit for companies?
Actually, yes. Security builds trust, and trust actually compresses deal times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it's investors, if they see lower risk, they're more likely to make a decision faster and give a better valuation, right?
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Um,
feel more trust, like you said.
yeah,
Security
or
builds trust.
and desirable clients, you should have less friction when you're onboarding and fewer, delays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and partners would see you as a safe bet to connect their systems and data to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Can you share an example where improving data controls led to faster deals, approvals, or valuation? Do you have like a specific example you can think of?
Yes. So a manufacturing client that we work with um, needed a penetration test to renew their cyber insurance.
Okay.
And they were paying $100K a year in cyber insurance.
Wow.
Yep. And the CTO actually thought they were really good in cyber, and he said, "You're not going to find anything." So we said, "Great." Well, so when he had a large amount of like almost 180 open IPs. We hacked his financial system, his printers, his cameras, and he didn't. So he's like, well, he was using his Microsoft Secure Score as his means of thinking that he was safe. And so when we helped them understand that only measures the Microsoft stack, you know what I mean? And so, but the good part is we then worked on, he already cared about doing it right. You know what I mean? He just had to put his attention on other things. Yep. So we worked on a program with him. And after a few quarters, his reports really, because we would retest them every quarter, and they got better, Yep. And so after 5 quarters, we were only finding net new stuff and relatively small because their culture had changed.
Oh, nice.
And so the carrier actually lowered his premiums by 50%.
Wow. That's huge. That's a big savings. I like to hear that. So we're getting near to the end of our time. I wanted to ask just a few more questions. If you could give one piece of advice to a business owner who's growing fast, hasn't addressed data risk yet, what's the one move you'd want them to take before the end of this quarter?
Yeah, I would say hire an advisor and have them participate in your leadership meetings, because cybersecurity is a leadership issue. It's not an IT ticket.
So as far as an advisor, how do who would be the right person that you would hire? Is that like if as a small business owner, would you hire them kind of on a contractual basis, like coming in and like meeting with us and talking through things? Okay.
Yeah, you could hire them on a fractional basis. And but it's just because like I said, there's a lot of layers to this onion, and you can't do them all at once, and no one expects you to.
Yeah.
But with the right strategy, you can make a pretty good dent in the risk reduction in a relatively short period of time. But it's just having those good facts.
Yes. Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit more about what you do at the Hack Ninja and maybe where listeners can learn more about you? But just, I think it's interesting what you're doing, and like people that are listening may be interested. So talk about how you help take the first step kind of in this process.
Sure.
And then if you can direct them to your website or how to get in a hold of you, that'd be great.
Sure. So I always say hackers are business owners that look for new clients every day. I mean, they hit us hard. They'd love to bring us down. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so the idea is it's much more cost effective to have, us show a company where they have unknown risks than it is.
Basically provide like an overall assessment, right? You can come in and do an assessment of their cybersecurity.
That is it, right? So we call it EAT. We educate, assess, and advise and test.
Okay.
And it's a closed loop process because at a point in time, here's where you are. Okay. No. And then, but what we don't do is we don't implement change. And the reason is we can't advise and test if we start fixing stuff. But we can help clients, find the right implementers, you know what I mean? Or if they have them already, that's great. We're just giving those implementers fact-based priorities, to address. Like,
so you help assess issues, but you're not fixing them.
That is absolutely right.
You just say, here's problems, and then we'll come back in 3 months and check them again and tell you, did you improve? Get worse. So that's it. So but you do have recommended people who can help if they don't have.
Yeah, we have vetted people that we've, where we've tested stuff that they've done.
Okay.
Without, and there's not rats in the basement.
That's a good first step, and to try to figure out what your situation is. Maybe things are going fine and you don't have a ton of risk. Great, then you don't have to wonder, you don't have to worry. And then if you do have some issues, you can get it resolved. So where can they find you in the Hack Ninja?
Thehackninja.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn as well. And we have a Hack Ninja page as well. You can then connect with me on our page. If you go to the education program, you hit register. There's a complimentary session of the education program that'd be available to all your listeners there.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Tim, for being with us. Keep that momentum going, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Jamie.